Okay, welcome back to Drive Home Reviews is All Elite, and we got a big one to talk about here because last night was not just any episode of Dynamite, it was the 3rd anniversary edition of Dynamite. And so it was a pretty stacked card. And all in all, I would say this was a really, really good show. I mentioned last week that I felt everyone was kind of flat. The matches didn't have a lot of heat. Everybody, the crowd included, just seemed very physically and emotionally drained. And it feels like they're rested. They got that spark back, and we were given a really, really good show. So it starts right out, and one of the things I got to say I loved about the show is it felt like it went back to the classic AEW format, which is match, 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 match. And then not a lot of dead space, not a lot of, cutting backstage for a lengthy promo, no opening the shows with lengthy promos. I'm on record as that is not what I enjoy, says the guy who is famous for 30-minute rambling reviews, of which I've just gotten some comments on. But anyway, I like it when we jump right into the wrestling. And they did start off MJF versus Wheeler Yuta. Good match. Good, solid match. Really showcases both these guys. Showcases just how far Wheeler Yuta has come. And just how over he is. Because people were loving him. And I have to admit, I hadn't thought much of Wheeler Yuta. Not he's bad, but just, he was never one of those names on my radar. But he has really come a long way. And, I don't know how much what you see on TV is what actually happens. I don't know if he's actually training with William Regal or any of that. But being associated with William Regal and the Blackpool Combat Club, that's a tongue twister this early in the morning, really seems to have done him a lot of good. Because he is just on, and the fans love it. MJF is MJF. He's always deceptively good in the ring, because I always think of him as just more of a mouthpiece, and his matches are fairly simple, but that's doing the man a disservice. He's very good in the ring and very clever, and one clean. And that's something else that I'm happy to see that we had a bit more of this week, are clean finishes. They've been getting into the shenanigans a little too much recently. And this week we had a lot of clean finishes, decisive finishes. Tapped Wheeler out to the salt of the earth, and there you have it. There was this weird thing. It was a weird and awesome moment at the same time, where after the match, Wheeler Yuta tries to shake MJF's hand, and MJF is doing the whole, I'm conflicted, which we know MJF's character, he's not going to do this. Or if he's going to do it, it's part of a bigger swerve down the line, right? So he goes to shake his hand, and then Lee Moriarty, who's part of the firm, now I can never remember the manager's name. Stokely? I'm sorry. But he comes out and batters Wheeler from behind, and MJF's like, I told you not to do that. I told you not to do that. And Stokely wants him to hit Wheeler with the Dynamite diamond ring, and he's acting all conflicted. It's what is going on here? You can't possibly be trying to turn MJF face, right? You can't possibly be trying to do that, because that is the stupidest thing. Just keep him doing what he's doing, and people will cheer him or boo him. He is the guy we love to cheer and we love to hate. So I don't know what this was all about. I understand building heat for Wheeler and Lee Moriarty down the line. But what was this whole thing with MJF being all conflicted? But it led to an awesome moment of just William Regal getting up from the announce booth and just walking on the ring and putting on these brass knucks, and you're like, oh shit, William Regal gonna fuck somebody up. And he gets in the ring, and MJF's like, oh, okay, yeah, we're not gonna mess with you. It was just an awesome moment putting over William Regal in a way that befits a legend of his stature. And I thought that moment was really awesome, but the whole, oh, do I punch him, do I not? I didn't get that. One thing I have noticed about AEW lately is they seem to be repeating themselves, like on the same show. So next up we have Darby Allin and Jay Lethal. Another great match. Two solid performers. Jay Lethal, I put Jay Lethal in the same category as Frankie Kazarian. One of those guys who I don't think has ever really gotten the credit that he deserves for how much of a cornerstone of the industry he has been and how great an ambassador for his generation he has been. Even though he is a former ROH television and world champion and tag team champion, you know, I still, the wrestling world at large does not seem to ever give him the due that he is owed. And of course, Darby Allin, how do you not love Darby Allin? I mean, the guy is just phenomenal. And they have a great match. And of course, the gimmick of this one was that Lethal had told Sanjay Dutt and Satnam Singh not to come down to the ring. That rhymes. And they come out on the walkway. They distract Jay Lethal. And Darby Allin rolls him up in the Last Supper, which is an awesome pin, by the way. Kind of, like I say, because kind of the match of the underdogs and the lack of credit. Because I love the Last Supper as a pin because it's so cool. But anyway, so Darby wins, and then they do the whole will Jay Lethal do the handshake. You know, it was like, wait, didn't we just do this? Also in this match, one of the big highlights of the Wheeler-Yuta MJF match was they did like this succession of roll-ups. You know, the whole spot where one guy's on the other guy's shoulders, they wrap their legs, they pin him, and they flip back and forth. They did that for like a solid minute. I don't know how many times they did it to each other, just constantly flipping over, and the ref only hitting one or two, but eventually it was just getting down to one before they flipped over, and the crowd was into it. It was awesome. It's one of those things you think would get silly, but I don't know why, but for some reason I was like, yeah! And the crowd was loving it, and it was a really cool spot. They do almost the exact same thing here, not as long, but yeah, so that was bizarre to me. So obviously I think they're setting up Jay's going to split from Sanjay and Satnam Singh at some point. So, because he did shake Darby's hand. Darby had to like slap the shit out of him to get him to do it. But, so I think that's where they're going with that. I might be getting these matches a little out of order, sorry. So next up, Brian Cage versus Wardlow for the TNT Championship. Holy shit, this was a good match! I'm sorry if I sound surprised, but look, I am a wrestling fan, and therefore I am not immune to the things that get wrestling fans stoked up. I was a big Goldberg mark back in the WCW days. I loved the simplicity of it. And wrestling fans love that type of guy. They love that big, beefy, badass, comes out, whoops you in 10 seconds, and then walks away. They love it. You know? But the problem with a character like that is they fade quickly because there's not much you can do with them. You know? And the one thing I worried about when they gave Wardlow the TNT title is that he is just, of all the guys who have held that belt, he's not one I can think of who can have a great match with anybody. He's one of those guys that he needs the right partner to make him and the partner look good. Otherwise, they're just glorified squash matches. Well, we got it this time. Brian Cage turns out to be the perfect dance partner for Wardlow because they matched their... I'm not going to say that Brian Cage carried him, but I think Brian Cage, being the more experienced, definitely took the lead on it, and got Wardlow to a really good, entertaining, hard-hitting Big Hoss match of these two uber athletic and uber huge dudes just slapping and battling the shit out of each other. And it was great. You know, and it felt like that powerbomb symphony at the end was earned. That's the problem with a character like Wardlow. And I think he's learning. He's definitely come a long way, and I think he is. I don't know if I'd put the world title on him like a lot of people are saying. I think that would be a mistake. But he definitely is one of the kings of the mid-card. And that's a good spot for him. And I think he can improve and eventually become world title material. Just not now. But all hats off to both of these guys, because this was a good fucking match. And that is not something I thought I'd ever say about a Wardlow match. I'd say they were fun. They were entertaining. I love the Powerbomb Symphony. I love his, you know, all of his gimmick moves. But great match. That's not something I would normally say. But hats off to both these guys. They pulled it off. Okay, so let's see. Then we had, again, I think I'm getting these out of order. So we had a women's trios match, which was, Athena, Willow Nightingale, and Toni Storm versus Jamie Hayter, Serena Deeb, and Penelope. And, you know, I was watching the Wrestling with Regret channel, and he did a list of, you know, the top 8 things AEW's done in its 3 years, and the bottom 8 things that has happened in AEW over the last few years. And of course, on his bottom 8 is the women's division, and nobody can really deny that. The women's division has not been strong. And I don't know what the answer to that is. I've said that before on this show. I don't know how to fix that other than more TV time, maybe put them in the opening match or the second match, put them in a more prominent place on the card. So I don't know quite how to fix that. But here's the thing. It's not like the women aren't over, and it's not like you don't have talent, because this was a deceptively good match. I was a bit surprised by it, and it started off slow. A lot of the women's matches start off very slow. That could also be a problem. They need a little bit more explosive finish, or a little bit of more explosive step right out the gate. But the match heated up, and you could see that the crowd was really into the characters they created. They're cheering Jamie Hayter, so probably issuing her about to do a face turn on Britt Baker. I was really happy my girl Serena Deeb. Because for the last 2 weeks, I've been saying Serena Deeb is completely underrated. She is what happened if you could clone and mix the DNA of Dean Malenko and Chris Kanyon. And when she tagged in, she got a big pop. So that was great. And Willow Nightingale did a really great job in this match. She ended up getting the pin. And I love the look on her face of how happy she was. You know? And the crowd was really excited about it. They were excited she got the pin. Also, once again, one of my other, I guess they'd be my girls. You know, if you go with the OSW thing and they say, my boys, the people I root for, even though they're not being book strong. One of my other girls, Penelope, who I've praised multiple times. She was awesome in this, and she had one of the best almost botches turned into a great spot. So one of her things that she does is, people go to swing at her for a clothesline, and she arches back in this matrix move and goes into this, exorcist stand. I don't know if I'm describing this one. But this time, so Willow Nightingale went for the clothesline. She arched back, and she lost her balance, and she's wobbling, and she looks over, and she jumps up, grabs Willow Nightingale, and gives her a cutter out of the stumbling. It looked great. It could have been she could have looked really foolish, but she quickly, and I think Willow Nightingale helped her with this, but the two of them fought quickly and turned it into, even in the midst of defeat, she managed to pull it out. So I was all about it. So again, the AEW Women's Division has the talent, and they're over. People want to cheer them. So, yeah, maybe we need to put them on in a more prominent spot. We got to give them a stronger start to their matches. whatever, but they're not without talent. Okay, so what was next? Hangman Adam Page versus Roosh. Fucking great match, because Hangman Adam Page is fantastic, and Roosh is uber fantastic. I love both these guys, and they had a really fun, great match. Just their styles mesh really well. So, yeah, not a whole lot to say. So after the match, out comes Jon Moxley, and because he and Paige are gonna fight in 13 days, not next week, but the following week, I think. And I can't remember, but they have a title match coming up, and so Moxley gets in Paige's face, cuts one of his Moxley promos, says, I respect you, I like you, but when that bell rings, I don't respect nobody. I'm gonna choke you out till you turn blue. And Paige, so then Moxley drops the mic, he goes to get out of the ring. Paige picks up the mic and says, hey, you're so anxious to fight me, let's do it right now. That thing that they always do. Let's fight right here in Washington, And then Moxley gets back in the ring, and he says, I'm going to give you a freebie on that one, but like all you kids backstage, you keep losing your heads and saying shit that you shouldn't be saying, so I'm going to let that one slide, but if you open your mouth again, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. Watch your fucking mouth. And of course, they bleep out all the swear words, because they can't do that anymore. And then, yeah, Paige just kind of kowtows to him, which I think is the wrong move. I liked what they did. I liked that. But I think Paige should have said something. Because he's really, Paige, and I've mentioned this before, in this whole mess with CM Punk and the Elite, you notice the one guy who's been doing the right thing, in my opinion, is Adam Page. He kept his mouth fucking shut. He didn't go after Punk on Twitter. He hasn't said anything, at least no reports that I've heard, of him firing back or anything. He hasn't said anything about the Elite suspension. The reports I've heard is that he was out of the building. He was going to get food when the whole fight took place, and that's why he wasn't there. But regardless, like, he has not said anything, and they have kept his on-screen character strong. But they can't ignore the fact that he is kind of the catalyst for everything that's kind of gone down. That one stray remark in a promo months ago, and Mr. Can't Let It Go, CM Punk, Cry Moan Punk, just couldn't let it go. But that one comment is apparently what set all of this in motion. And I feel like that's been reported on. People have said that, and I think it has. I think having him kowtow right there to Moxley, I think that weakened him. Weakened him more than Punk calling him out and him not going out. I think he should have grabbed the mic and said, yeah, well, I'm talking back, come get me. And then Moxley should have backed down. You gotta give Page a little bit of street cred here. He's earned it. And I feel like they gave Moxley the street cred who didn't need it. So, and again, you never know how scripted a lot of these promos are. So maybe Page did say, maybe he wasn't supposed to say anything. I don't know. But yeah, I felt like the showdown was great, but I thought that last moment of Page just kind of being like, okay, I got put in my place, that weakened him, and I didn't like that. So yeah, there's that. The Acclaimed had a long promo segment. I'm not going to get into that. Again, I don't like long promos, even though I do love the Acclaimed. They're a lot of fun, and Swerve Strickland came out and did his bit. So, yeah, obviously they're doing stuff there. But yeah, honestly, that was some of the least interesting stuff on the show. I think there's a squash match with Luchasaurus, setting up him and Jungle Boy for next week in Canada, and setting up Madison Rayne and Sky Blue versus Ty Conte and Ty Mello, I should say, and Anna JAS for Rampage. nothing going on there. All right, so I think that's everything until we get to the main event, which is Bryan Danielson and Daniel Garcia versus Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And I really don't need to say it. It was a great match because you have 4 incredibly talented people involved in this match. And I gotta say, I think this match served as a reminder of a few things. And one of the biggest reminders I feel it served as is that reminder that you may not like the guy, and Lord knows there are a lot of reasons not to like the guy, but Sammy Guevara is amazing. He is a great wrestler, and he is a great performer, and he is a great heat magnet. You might not like him, and I do not blame you if that is the case, because he is kind of a douchey human being by all accounts. I honestly don't know sometimes if he's an actual douche or if he just lets the character he plays overtake him. But regardless, regardless of that, he is still amazing. And you always heard people make the comparison to Eddie Guerrero. I don't see that comparison. I see the comparison in him and Shawn Michaels, to be completely honest. And even though I am not a Shawn Michaels fan, you can't question the man's ability or his impact. And I think Sammy Guevara is like the next generation Shawn Michaels, complete honesty. And Daniel Garcia did a great job in this match too. He's really coming into his own. He still has this aura of a frightened little kid. And I know that's part of his deal right now because, he's being pulled between, his favorite wrestler and his mentor, between Bryan Danielson and Chris Jericho. Excuse me. So, but he didn't come off very confident. And I think that's the thing he's missing. And I think he had that when he first arrived in AEW. He had that swagger and that cockiness. And I feel like that's been lost. And we need that back. If you're going to come out there, even if you're having a conflicted storyline, you have to come out there and look like, yeah, I am the fucking best guy here. And I feel he's lost that somewhere and needs to get that back. Because wrestling-wise, he is everything that he claims he is and everything they're building him up to be. He and Guevara had a great series. They're a great rivalry. I want to see more of them. And if everything goes well, they could be one of the great rivalries of AEW. It could be one of those storied rivalries because they just work well together and they both get better every week. And I don't think I need to talk about Jericho or Danielson. I mean, what needs to be said about them at this point? They're the vets, they're the tent poles, they're the locker room leaders, and yeah, that's all you really need to know about them. So we end this match with shenanigans. So this match ends with Chris Jericho whacking Daniel Garcia in the head with the ROH title and Sammy Guevara getting a very sloppy pin on him. I didn't mind that because it's part of this ongoing storyline of Jericho being the Ring of Honor champion and yet having no honor. So I didn't mind it because it fit the storyline and the character that's being portrayed in it. I honestly think we're going to hear fairly soon that there's some kind of TV deal with Ring of Honor. I really think that because they seem to be really pushing ROH and ROH guys and ROH titles and the Code of Honor. They made a big deal about the shaking hands after, like, say, 2 matches did it today, and they were talking, it's the Code of Honor from Ring of Honor, So they're really trying to get that brand recognition in your head, because I think very soon they'll be announcing that they've got some kind of TV deal. What that deal is and with who, I don't know. And I have no insider information on this. I'm just saying all the signs are kind of pointing in that direction. So it would not surprise me to see what happens. So it'll be interesting to see what happens next week when the main event will be Jericho versus Danielson 3 for the ROH title. All right, so there you have it. Again, pretty stacked show. Pretty damn good show. I enjoyed it. The action was fun. Everybody did a great job. Felt like we had some of the old energy back. I was kind of hoping that as a surprise for the 3rd year anniversary that maybe the Elite would have shown back up, like maybe the suspensions would have been lifted and they would come back at the very end, but that didn't happen. And I can't say I'm too surprised, simply because they got some legal stuff they gotta really make sure that they've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's on. But it would have been nice. But anyway, so great show. Happy that it feels like they're back on track. All right, so there you go. Thank you very much for watching me. I really got to come up with a better catchphrase to end this one on, so I'll just end it with my classic one. So thank you very much for joining me, and as always, drive safe, and I'll see you at the ring. I don't like that. I got to think of something better. Help me out here, people.